All right, students, welcome back. Ms. Jones here again with part 2 of how to make your pinch pot monster. If you haven't done so already, please watch the first video on wedging and gathering your materials. This video is the next step. So after you've wedged your clay, you should have a nice cubed piece of clay that is ready to turn into a pinch pot. This process, creating a pinch pot, requires a bit of practice. Don't expect to make a perfect one the first time. I have probably made over 200 pinch pots at this point, so I'm able to knock one out pretty quickly. But I remember the first time I made one in college, I got so mad that I threw it on the floor because I couldn't figure it out. So you might find yourself in that situation. You know, if it feels good to throw it on the floor and get some aggression out, make sure you get your parents' approval first. You know, you might find that yours falls apart the first time that you do it. You might have to re-wedge the clay, add more water to it, and start from scratch. That's the nice thing about clay, is you can work it over and over and over again. Now, I've got a pretty good piece of clay here that I've spent time cubing, and I'm ready to wedge it, or ready to make it into a pinch pot. So to begin with, I'm going to start by pressing down on the corners of the cube. I'm going to use the palm of my hand to do this, and I'm just going to go around and gently tap down all of the corners that I find, and any edges as well. So if I see anything that looks kind of squarish, I'm going to tap that down too with the palm of my hand. You can see it's starting to look more roundish already. Now, we also need to do what's called cupping. So it's where you're going to just kind of cradle the clay in the palm of your hand, and you're going to kind of gently work it into a more rounded form. You could also try rolling it, kind of like you would with Play-Doh. Some people like to do that on the table surface. So you've probably done this before. Not the most effective because clay is pretty thick and dense. I find that just working on rounding it out with my hands is usually sufficient. Sometimes it's almost like you're playing baseball and you're throwing the ball back into your mitt, right? Each time you do that, you're working on kind of rounding it out. Now, I do have a pretty big wrinkle right here, and that's okay. That would actually be a really good place for me to start my pinch pot. And so to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my finger, my thumb, and I'm going to stick it right in that hole that's already there, because that's a good place to begin. Now, I'm sticking my thumb down about more than halfway, so about 3/4 of the way, and I'm probably leaving about that much clay between the bottom of my thumb and the bottom of the pinch pot. You don't want to push all the way through. You want to make sure that you leave clay in the bottom there that you can then work with your thumb. So we put our thumb in the pinch pot, and then we're going to cradle the pinch pot in one hand, and we're just going to kind of rotate our thumb around the inside of the pinch pot, just kind of opening up the bottom of the pinch pot a little bit more. So I'm opening up down here at the bottom, not up here at the top, although you'll see that that's gotten a little bit bigger. Now notice things have already started to crack around the rim. I need to fix that right away. So I'm going to take my sponge, and I am going to dip it in the water, and then I'm going to wipe some water around the opening of my pot where I'm seeing some of those cracks. And then I'm going to do what's called collaring. I'm going to take my thumb and I'm going to swipe it along the opening here. I'm just going to heal up any of those cracks before they get worse. If you have cracks at the beginning, you'll have cracks at the end. This goes for cracks around the outside too. So if you see any around the outside, you can just take a little bit of water and blend those cracks right out. You can use the sponge for this, but I find that your finger, just swiping the clay with your finger, really tends to work well. So I'm just kind of healing up any cracks. I'm seeing some on the bottom here, so I'm going to heal some of those as well. Just kind of swiping the clay over. And once I feel like there's no cracks, then I'm going to be ready to start actually opening the pinch pot. Okay, I've added a little bit of water to it. It's not soaking wet, but it might be a little bit tacky. Now I'm going to stick my thumb back in the pinch pot. I'm going to cradle it with my other hand, and I'm going to start to turn the pinch pot. And what I'm doing, if you want to see it from a different angle, is I'm pinching with the meaty parts of my finger. So I'm kind of making like a little duck. And I'm not pinching hard, right? Because I want the clay to remain smooth and even thickness throughout. So I'm sticking only my thumb in the pinch pot, and then I'm turning the pinch pot either with the hand that's pinching or with the hand that's holding. Sometimes I do it with both. And I'm gently overlapping my pinches. You can start to see some of my finger impressions around the outside. I'm overlapping those pinches. And as I work my way from the bottom to the top, the pinch pot will start to grow and get bigger. Now I felt like it was starting to kind of crack a little bit again at the bottom here. So I might just add a little bit of water to make sure that doesn't happen. And then I will continue exactly what I was doing before. I'm going to work the base of this pinch pot for probably about 5 minutes. I'm really not doing anything except pinching down here at the bottom. What I find what happens to most students is they leave a bunch of clay at the bottom, and then it's really thin around the opening. And that is not what you want in a pinch pot. You want even thickness so it all dries at the same time. So I'm going to keep pinching. Again, I'm just kind of working my way now through the middle of the pinch pot, so now I'm more up here. Still not working the rim, but noticing my rim is starting to crack a little bit. So this is where I'm going to come in with some more water, do that collaring and swiping to heal up any of those cracks. And now I'm just going to continue pinching. Again, it kind of looks like this from the side. Some people find it more comfortable like this. Do not do this. You don't want to leave it on the table and stick both fingers in. That's a bad idea. No, no, no. Instead, cup in one hand and rotate, and then pinch as you go. You'll see it starting to get bigger. I'm also getting a few cracks there, so I'm going to add a little bit of water. Do a little bit of swiping, making sure it's not falling apart on me. Now I am starting to kind of work my way up towards the rim a little bit more. See, the mouth is starting to get a little bit bigger. And I'm just going to keep rotating and keep pinching. I'm at about 8 minutes at this point. Most high quality pinch pots take at least 10 to 15, sometimes 20 minutes to create. And you just keep pinching. If you've only spent 5 minutes on it, I can pretty much guarantee you haven't done enough pinching. You want to try to get it thin. And when we talk about thickness, especially around the rim, we want it to be about pinky thick. And we want that same thickness throughout the entire pinch pot. So pinky thick is your rule for thickness no matter what you're building, whether it's a pinch pot or a coil or a slab or a tail or a horn or an eyeball. You really don't want it much wider or thicker than pinky thick. I'm going to add just a little bit more water. You really want to look out for the cracks. One of the things you guys are going to find on your rubric is that cracks take away points for craftsmanship. So really focus on having a pinch pot that's as smooth as you can get it. You can see right now I'm just kind of supporting the pinch pot on the inside with one hand, and then I'm kind of smoothing the outside. My fingers are a little bit wet, so I'm not only creating a smooth texture, but I'm also working on healing any cracks that might be there. It's starting to get to be the right thickness now. And I'm at right about 10 minutes, and this is where you're at 10 minutes. This is about the size that you want. If you find that it's too big for your hand, you might have used too much clay. So if you're having a really hard time like thinning it out at the bottom, it could be that your pinch pot's just too big. It should really fit comfortably in your hand, and your thumb should still be able to swipe the bottom even when it's fully built. Okay, so that's a basic pinch pot. That's the shape that you have to start with before you can build your other body parts. Please send me an email. Let me know if you have